This video is for clue 10 of the Indivisible pattern, which is the 2024 Mystery Crochet-along pattern from Expression Fiber Arts. I apologize. This video is so late. I feel rotten for making you guys wait so long. And honestly, I went back and forth so many times on whether to even make the video because clue 10 is just, it's very straightforward. I don't know that anybody actually needs this. But I did want to put it out there just in case. Not necessarily because I think anybody needs the, you probably don't need me to add single crochets along the border, but I did have a couple of tips to pass along that might make it a little easier. So I did want to do that and just show a very brief tutorial to kind of specifically for the joining, although Shandy's video is great, so go watch that. The video that Shandy shows to demonstrate how to do the slip stitch, the zigzag slip stitch connection is perfect. So the only reason I'm doing it here is just because the swatches that she had didn't have the single crochet border, and I wanted to kind of make a point of that, of showing you that. So I'm going to get started. Just know that there are still timestamps down in the video description. If there's just something that you want to see and jump to, you don't need to watch through the whole video. Just go to the parts that you need to watch and leave the rest. So you can see I have a teeny little swatch here. I have my swatch that I've already made the single crochet border on. These are obviously not to size or anything like that. I know you guys don't want to watch me single crochet 200 plus stitches around my swatches when it's just the same stitch over and over again. So basically I'm just going to do this one little swatch really quickly in case you're curious about the attachment or doing it, and just show you. I would recommend having 4 stitch markers handy for when you do your single crochet border. So you're going to start by just attaching your color 10 to the top left. So you want to make sure your square is facing up. And then you're just going to attach your color 10 at the top right corner. And then, so most of these have the 3 single crochets in each corner, and then you're going to do 51 across each edge. Basically, you're going to, after you attach your piece, you're going to start with 3 single crochet in the corner, 2, 3, and I actually did work I found that working the single crochets for the edges here with a larger hook was very helpful for making the connections later on. So just a tip. So what I'm doing is, after I do those 3 single crochets in the corner, I'm actually going to put a stitch marker into the second one. It's just really helpful for identifying later when you're actually going to attach things together. And then you're just going to work a single crochet in each of the stitches across in the ones that are worked in the round, and I will go over how to get the correct number of stitches on the ones that are worked flat, where you're working back and forth. So I'm just going to make my stitches across here. And again, like I said, this is not a full thing. I just wanted to show you. So yeah, you're basically going to single crochet around when you do your 3 single crochets in each corner. Again, I just recommend that you stop, get a stitch marker in the second one. And that will just be helpful for later. And you just continue all the way around. When you get back to the beginning, you're going to join the slip stitch to the first stitch at the beginning of the round. And I'll finish this up, and then I'll meet you with my 2 swatches for connecting. Actually, we'll go over the how to work it on the pieces worked flat, and how to work it on clue 2, and then we'll go over joining. I wanted to just talk about how to get your borders on. So you can see I've already got my single crochet border on my squares here. And for the squares that are worked in the round, it's actually really easy because you should have the correct number of stitches around each edge to the point that you're just working the three single crochet in the corner and then working 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way across until you get to the next corner, and then 3 more. But in the squares that are worked back and forth flat, where you're just working a row and then turning and working back, it can be a little tough to figure out how to get the correct number of single crochets around the left and right edges of your pieces. And so I did just want to talk about that briefly. So what I did is you need between your, after you work your corner, the 3 single crochet in the corner, you're going to be working 51 single crochet across one edge and then 3 more in the corner. And so what I did is I split my piece in half, or like folded it in half. And I know that when I get to the halfway mark, I'm going to need 26, like that 26th stitch. So you have basically 25 stitches on either side of the halfway mark up the edge. So I put a stitch marker just in that fold, and then I did the same thing. I folded it again. Okay, so basically I'm going to want my 13th stitch to fall on each fold. So I'm going to work, and then 13 should fall here, 26 should fall here, 39 should fall here, and then when I get to the end, I should be at 51. And so breaking it down that way just helped me not have to go back so many times and try to figure it out. You can also do something where you kind of count your rows and determine for each row about how many single crochets are you going to need. So it can get a little tricky when you do it that way, just because even if you think, okay, so I've got, let's say you have 27 rows, you know, okay, I need about 2 stitches, 2 single crochets per row, with just a little bit fewer, maybe 1 less on either end, something like that. When you're actually in the nitty-gritty of placing them, it can feel like, okay, I have too many, they're too close here, now they're too far away here. And so I found that the stitch markers really help just figure out where exactly. So if you just have this much to work with and you go, okay, I need 13 stitches in this amount of space, it's a lot easier to figure out how to get those 13 in, and you're only working with a very small amount instead of trying to figure out how to get 51 across a very long part. So that would be my suggestion. Take your sides when you're working the sides, because the top and the bottom should still be the 51 stitches without the corners on these pieces that you're working flat, the squares that you're doing flat. So fold it in half once, put a stitch marker in the fold, that's your mark to get to 26, and then fold it in half again, and then put a stitch marker in each of those folds. And you need to know, okay, I need to get to 13 here, 26 to here, 39 to there, and then the last one should be 51. And I think you'll find that helpful. The only square that has slightly different instructions is the Clue 2 square. And you're actually putting 5 single crochets in each corner, and I would strongly recommend you mark the 3rd one, just so that when you get back to it, as you're attaching the squares together, you have that center single crochet is marked on each of your corners. So the instructions are pretty simple and straightforward. Basically, after you do your 5 single crochets in the corner, you're going to do a single crochet in the top of the puff, 2 single crochets in this chain stitch, and then all the way across you're going to do top of the puff, center between the puffs, top of the puff, space between the puffs. Or so you have the 2 puffs. You're going to do a single crochet in the top, and then there's going to be a chain space between those 2 puffs, so you're going to do a single crochet there, and then there's another single crochet in the top of the 2nd puff, and then there's actually a space between each sets of puffs, so you're going to do a single crochet there too. So basically top, center, top, between, top, center, top, between, top, center, top, between, all the way across until you get to this last one where you do top, center, top, and then this chain space gets 2 and then 1 more in the top of the single puff that's at the end, and then 5 more single crochets in the corner. So putting the single crochets around the squares, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You just need to make sure that you're actually getting the correct count, because when you go to attach the squares to each other, you have to have the same number of stitches on either side of the squares that you're connecting, or you're going to end up with a uneven seam. And so you just want to make sure that you're getting the 51 single crochets on either edge. And actually, the Clue 2 still has 51. It's just two of, so you have the 3 in the corner, and then 49 on the edge, and then 50 and 51 are the ones that are the outside edge of those 5 that are in the corner. So if you, like, all the other ones have 3 in the corner and then 51 on the edge, so this has 5 in the corner and then 49 on the edge and then 5 in the next corner. So that's pretty straightforward. Other than that, you do want to lay all your squares out, and I highly recommend laying them out before you add the border. I know this is way too late in coming because half of you already, well, more than half of you have probably finished Clue 10 by now. But you want to lay them out. You want to figure out what order you want to have them in. Make sure that they're all pretty consistent size. I know those of you who have worked in the acrylic are kind of running into, oh no, significantly different sizes, and you can't really block the acrylic. So I did, even after I took this picture, I actually went back and blocked 2 of my squares just because they weren't quite up to the correct size. And then, so once you've got them all blocked to the same size, if you are blocking with the, if you're actually using the recommended, whether it's the Cremo worsted or the pearlescent worsted, if you're using the recommended yarn, or if you're using another natural fiber yarn, my recommendation is to block each square about half an inch bigger, like pin it out to a half an inch bigger in both dimensions, because they will shrink back down. Okay, so once you have your single crochet around all of your squares, one of the things that I recommend is, if you've been putting stitch markers in each of the corner where the 3 crochet are, or the 3 single crochet, or in your Clue 2 where the 5 single crochet are when you put it in the middle. What I did when I did this, I went back and I basically made sure that each marker was just in the top of the stitch, that it wasn't snagging any other part of the stitch, that it was very cleanly in the top of the stitch. Basically, these are your corners, okay? So these are where you're going to be attaching each of your pieces. And so if you can get your stitch markers cleanly in each corner, when you lay them out, when you decide the order that you're going to be in, you can attach the stitch markers to each other, either with another stitch marker, or you can just use one stitch marker to attach the corners. But basically, you're going to be working into those corners at this, when you're attaching them together, you're going to be working into those corners. And so you want to have those corners marked, and you want to have them marked in a way that when you actually go to single crochet into them, you're not snagging other parts of the stitch as well. So once you've laid out your squares in the order that you want them to be in, I would recommend that you, so this is kind of just my fast and dirty drawing that my for illustration purposes only. So you have your 9 squares. Bring this up a little bit closer. So I would recommend that you just attach the corners. So you can like attach all 4 corners here. You can attach all 4 corners here. You can attach these corners, and then same thing down here. Attach the corners. So basically, you're gonna end up with all 9 squares sort of loosely attached at the corners. And then when I picked mine up, I basically did an accordion fold like this, so that I had all the pieces in order of where I was going to be working them. So once you have them all picked up in kind of this order, so you're going to start over here, you're going to connect across here. Sorry, I'm going to use this. You're going to connect across here. So you're going to connect these 2 squares, and then these 2 squares, and these 2 squares. And then you're going to connect the bottom row to the middle row. So you're going to connect across here. And then you'll go back and then connect them vertically here and here. And so if you have them all in the right order already, and again, like loosely attached in the corners of each, it will be more straightforward to get them actually put together once you've done that. Okay. Okay, so in my case, what I did was I kind of did this kind of a linkage where I actually used another stitch marker to attach the stitch markers because I didn't want the fabric to be so close that I was having to work around both a stitch marker and the other piece of fabric to do the attachment. But I wanted them to be close enough that it was very clear which thing went where. Okay, so we're going to pretend like this is my horizontal join because that's the first one that you do. And once they're horizontally joined, the vertical is pretty easy to do. So in this case, you're just going to go into that first corner, so where your corner stitch is, and you're going to attach the yarn there. And you're just going to drop that first loop, and then you're going to go into the corner on the other piece and go down and kind of go around your stitch markers here because they're in your way. Let's see, make sure I don't snag my yarn. All right, and then you're going to drop a loop, whoops, of the working yarn and not the tail. And you're going to pull that through. So just kind of getting started is a little bit strange. And you can get those stitch markers out if they're in your way too much. But you basically want to attach there. Sorry, I'm going to cinch everything down here just to get that first stitch tight. And it will loosen up when you go to weave in your ends is where you will snug that up for good. Okay? All right, so from this point, you're just going to be doing the zigzag slip stitch across. So you'll come back to your piece on the left, and you're going to go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through that loop on the hook, and then come over to the right. Always want to make sure you're just going into the next stitch, or you're going to get off on your stitch count. So yarn over and pull through the loop on the hook. And you're just going to go back and forth. Left side, pull through. Right side, pull through. Left side, pull through. And you're just going to continue that all the way up. The only thing that I had an issue with was just getting the tension. You just want to make sure that you're always tensioning the same way with each stitch. And it can be a little awkward when you're going back and forth. You may end up with less tension from when you're coming from one side to the other. So you just want to kind of check it as you're going along. But you're just going to go into each stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull it through and through the loop that's on the hook each time. And then when you get all the way up, so when you get to the end, you're gonna again want your last stitch of that connection to be in the corner stitch for each side. Okay, so then you have your join. Obviously you want to do this after you've blocked your squares so that they're all the same exact size. Go ahead and do all the zigzag seaming to get them connected. And then you end up with your blankets all seamed together like this. And if you want, you don't have to reblock it. So part of the problem is with all the different colors, especially with the light colors with, so for instance, my center square. And the center square, we have 5 different colors, some of which are very dark and from the same color. So for instance, this color is the same as this color, and actually these two I just did spray block because they have multiple colors in them. But when I wet blocked this one, which is also the same color, there was definitely bleeding. And so I would be a little concerned about getting the whole thing like in a tub or something like that. But if you want your seams to straighten out a little bit, you could reblock it after you've done the seaming. And I would just spray block it again. And actually when I spray block multiple colors, what I do is I put it down on a blocking mat I have a thin cotton sheet that I can see, like it's kind of see-through. It's thin enough that you can see through, and I have grid blocking mats. And so I put that thin cotton sheet over the grid, and then I put my project down so I can still pin it into the grid shape, so I can pin everything straight. So you can see like my join right here is a little wonky, so I can pin that straight. But then basically when I spray it to saturate it, get it nice and moist so that all the fibers are wet, the cotton underneath will kind of help absorb any of the extra moisture, so that any of the colors that are starting to run will run onto that as opposed to onto the color next to it. So if you want to block after you've done the seam just to get your seams really nice and straight, I think I might do that with mine, just because I've got a couple that are a little wonky, especially around, so this is my clue 3. This one just wants to spread out like crazy, so I'm actually considering unblocking it and remaking it and then putting it back in. Clue 10 is pretty straightforward. Doing the single crochet around the edges is really easy. Doing the zigzag seaming once you get it started is very simple, and it's just a matter of getting your squares connected in the correct order. And yeah, so that's clue 10.